When we need to work in the round with a small number of stitches, we have a few options. We can use double pointed needles, one short circular needle, one long circular needle and the magic loop technique, or we can use two circular needles of any length and make socks and mitts and hats and baby sweaters or any other projects with a small diameter. There is only one condition: both circular needles should be of the same needle size. Let's see how we can work in the round with two circular needles in two different ways. The first way is the most common way to knit in the round with two circular needles. It works great for any project with small circumference. You can make socks, mitts, hats, whatever you want, even small toys. As you see, I have just 40 stitches over here. It's just a tiny amount, but I'm confident that I'll be able to work in the round using this circular needle and the other circular needle exactly like this one. So how do we do that? First of all, we cast on all stitches on one of the needles. Then we're gonna divide these stitches in half, and that's when I take the other circular needle and simply slip half of the stitches from one needle to the other. It doesn't matter which way you slip them, from the right needle to the left needle or the other way around, doesn't matter at all. As long as you have half stitches on one needle and half stitches on the other needle, you should be good. So I'm gonna slip 20 stitches over here because, like I said, I know that I cast on 40, and then we'll move on to the next step. And here's my last stitch. So I have 20 stitches on one needle over here and 20 stitches on the other needle over here. The next step would be to align both needles like this. See, I have two circular needles. I'm aligning them like this, and I hold the tips of both needles while I'll move both groups of stitches to the cables of these needles like this. So here's what we've got. We've got two groups of stitches, one on one cable and the other on the other cable. Now the task is to rearrange the work so that the group of stitches that has the yarn attached to it is at the back of the work and the yarn is at the right side of it. So I'm gonna simply turn the work like this, and I've got this group of stitches at the back. This one without the yarn attached to it is at the front, and the yarn is at the right side of the work. So this is the setup. Now we are ready to start knitting, and here's how we do it. First of all, we'll be working on the front group of stitches all the time. We'll be turning the work, of course, but it's always front group of stitches. So pull the first needle, the front needle, to the left to bring the stitches to the tip of the needle. Then before you start your first round, like I do right now, make sure the stitches are not twisted around the needles like this. So that's a no-no. Make sure that they are all straight and that the cast on edge is looking inwards, creating a perfect circle or whatever shape it is, but that it is not twisted. That's very important. And then bring the yarn up to make sure you don't make the yarn over at the beginning of the round, and we are ready to start knitting. A very important thing here is we'll be knitting one group of stitches with one needle all the time and the other group of stitches with the other needle all the time. It's like we are assigning needles to each group of stitches. So this needle is dedicated to this particular group of stitches. That's very important. And to work this group of stitches, we're gonna look for the second tip of the same needle. We don't take any tip of the needle, any of the three other tips of the needles. We are looking for the same tip of this needle where the stitches are located. And now we take the working yarn and we simply start working on this group of stitches according to the pattern, whatever pattern you follow. Is it ribbing or any other stitch pattern, doesn't matter. Just work this group of stitches. I'm gonna just simply knit them. Okay, I finished working the first group of stitches. Now I pull the needle to the left to move this group of stitches to the cable of the needle and turn the work. Just like this. And now we'll be working exactly in the same fashion. We'll be working on the other group of stitches that is now at the front. So we pull the needle to the left, moving the stitches closer to the tip of the needle. Then we find the other tip of the same needle and we start working on this group of stitches in whatever stitch pattern or pattern you are following. Because it is so important to use the same needle all the time for the same group of stitches, it helps to use two different circular needles. So if, let's say, I had one needle with metal tips and the other needle with bamboo tips, then if I accidentally pick up a wrong tip, I would notice it right away. I would have one metal tip and one bamboo tip, and that would alert me that it's not good. So I would look for the right tip of the circular needle. But as you see, it is perfectly possible to work using this method on two absolutely identical circular needles. This way of working in the round with two circular needles is easier than the previous way. There are fewer manipulations. We are not going to divide stitches into groups. We're not going to rearrange them 2 times in every round. But this way can only be used when we have enough stitches to form a circle. See, I don't have enough stitches to work on one circular needle, but I do have enough stitches to form a circle. If you use the medium weight yarn and regular lengths of the circular needle tips, then it would be about at least 100 stitches. So when you have that many stitches, you can comfortably use the second method. And here's how it works. First of all, cast on all stitches on one circular needle. Then slide the stitches to the other tip of the same needle. So I'm simply pushing the stitches so that they are at the other tip of the needle. And then rearrange the work so that the needle with the stitches is at the front, the cable holding the rest of the stitches is at the back, and the working yarn is at the right side of the work, like this. So now we are ready to work. We take the second circular needle, we pull the yarn closer to the tip of this needle because we don't want that gap, right, between the first and the last stitch. And we simply start working on these stitches just as we normally would do. Again, in any stitch pattern you like. So we work all stitches until we get to the end of the round. As you work in the round using this method, you probably realize that it is very similar to working in the round on one circular needle. We still have to move stitches around the work, but because we use two circular needles, we can make the circle as big or as small as we need. So now the round is finished. I worked all stitches for one round. I move the stitches again to the tip of the needle. So we repeat the same procedure. So we move the stitches to the other tip of the needle, take the working yarn and take the empty needle in the right hand and start working on the next round. That's how simple it is. But like I said, the key is to have enough stitches to form a circle on the circular needle. No matter which of these two ways you will decide to use to make your project, your knitting will be accompanied by a soothing sound of clicking, a perfect soundtrack for a relaxed pastime. To read this tutorial as a set of step-by-step photo instructions, follow the link in the description. To download it as a PDF, join the club or our community on Patreon. Thank you for watching this video and have a wonderful week. I'll see you in the next tutorial.